If you're a mom who's tired of just surviving and wants to break generational patterns, this episode is for you. Welcome back to Imperfect Momming. I'm your host, Alysia Lyons, mindset coach, author of Good Mom Rules, and a mom on a mission to help other moms ditch the guilt and find their peace. This is the very first episode of season 9, and we're starting strong with a deep and meaningful conversation about emotional repression in our kids and in ourselves. I'm joined by children's author and parenting advocate, Angela Legh. And together we talk about what happens when we tell our kids to be strong, the long-term effects of unexpressed emotions, and simple tools to help your child and your inner child feel safe to feel. Be sure to hit subscribe so you don't miss any of the real talk, healing, and practical support coming your way this season.
Welcome to Imperfect Momming. Our children are constantly looking to us for examples. The term role model doesn't quite cut it here. We are shaping their worldview with every move we make. You see, it's not in the lectures we give or moments where we're actively attempting to teach them. It's in the micro movements we make, the unconscious ways in which we navigate life. We are constantly teaching our children how to show up for themselves, their friends, their future partners, and even their future children. So what can we do to ensure we are raising thoughtful, compassionate, self-aware human beings? We have to become them ourselves. No one is perfect, but we can all still be better, and it starts with self-healing. Let's get to it. Welcome back to Imperfect Momming. I'm your host, Alysia Lyons, and we have a very special guest today, Angela Legh. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much, Alysia.
I'm laughing because I almost called you Legh again.
Well, I say it's there's no I in Lee.
Yes, that works. Tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Well, in a way, I'm a mom coach because I write children's fairy tales that help preteens and young teens learn how to deal with emotions in positive ways. And also, I have a television show called Unfiltered Parenting that will be aired on Binge TV. It's still in those final days of building it, so I don't know the link yet, but it will be aired on Binge TV and available through any streaming service. And that show is really looking at what kind of issues do kids face and what do parents need to know in order to help their kids through that.
Oh, very cool. And super aligned this morning too, because last night I was at parkour with my son, and he landed wrong on something and bent his toes back.
Ouch.
And I'm like watching him because he's sitting on the ground. He's not making it. He's not really expressing anything, but like the fact that he's just sitting there, not, moving.
Right.
I know
something's wrong, right?
Something's not right. Yeah. And we also kind of have our own, little hand gestures and silent language where if he's doing something like that and I smile at him and he doesn't smile back, then we're good. We know we're not good. So he came over and he said, I hurt my toes really hurt. My foot really hurts. But I'm good. I'm not going to cry. I'll tough it out.
Oh.
Or I'll put on a brave face, I think was the exact words that he used. And I was just thinking, I know that I didn't ever consciously sit him down and say, don't cry. It's not okay to cry in front of other people.
Right. But it's a societal message.
It is a societal message. And I always told him verbally that his emotions are safe with me, but I didn't always respond as if his emotions were safe with me until I did some more healing.
Right. It's hard. Yeah. It's hard when you're the mom to always be in the perfect place to respond.
Yeah. And so I
I started, I love ChatGPT because it helps me think things.
Beautiful.
And I was like, what are the consequences of, like, what are we telling our kids when we tell them to put on a brave face?
I could go
Please answer
days
ChatGPT
about
in
that.
Angela form.
So let's start with that. The consequences of repressed emotions. If you look at any sort of trauma in the world that isn't, environmental trauma, but people trauma, it all goes back to repressed emotions. When we look at our current government leadership, that goes back to a bad childhood with repressed emotions. And the suppression, the denial, the escaping, the numbing, those behaviors that we were taught by our parents are actually what I call negative expressions of emotion. So when we grab that can of beer because we had a bad day and we don't want to feel that stress, that is emotional repression. When we go shopping, I'm angry at him, so I'm going to go buy a whole bunch of dresses.
Shopping therapy.
Shopping therapy, right? Retail therapy. That's emotional suppression. Even picking up a book or turning on the TV can be a form of emotional suppression. Just question, why am I doing this? If it's to escape how you're feeling, it's repression.
And what's really powerful about that for me is recognizing that boredom is an emotion that turning on the TV cures.
Yes, or picking up a book or playing a video game. Yeah. And the thing about emotions, they're information. They are our body's response to the circumstance around us. And it's like I cannot say that there are good or bad emotions. And people always quantify them by negative or positive. People chase after the positive emotions and push away the negative emotions, but they're all energy.
Yeah.
And energy must flow. So when we try and suppress or repress an emotion, we stop that energy and it gets stuck. And I've read all the works of Dr. Alice Miller, a psychologist who tracked the traumatic childhood of children and watched their development into the adult years. And her basic takeaway from all of this is repressed emotions don't stay repressed. They will either go inward and you attack yourself. So it could be your cells attacking your cells. It could be you doing self-harming. It could be you making negative behavioral choices that hurt you. Or they go outward and you attack others. And I don't know about you, but in my life, I've met people who have this hair trigger that, they'll go off and attack someone with very little input. That person is emotionally triggered because they had trauma that hasn't been addressed.
Yeah. And it's funny, I was just on a podcast right before you and I jumped on, and she had asked, what's something I just learned about myself? And it was hard to narrow it down. I'm constantly learning about myself. But the thing that I ended up saying was that so I started out with hearing this meme or seeing this meme that said, when the trigger appears, the wound is ready to heal.
I like that.
And I'm like, I live my life based on this meme, because I'm like, oh, when a trigger pops up, then I'm ready. Okay, let's dive in. And I go to this this coaching training program that I'm a mentor in the program, and so I continue to go back, and this was my 13th time going, and during the 12th time I was like, I didn't get a single trigger. Nothing triggered me the whole time. And then this last time was last week, so it's fresh on my mind. I thought, not being triggered isn't the goal. The goal is to find the trigger.
Well, yeah, and that's a really good point. Yeah, it's not being triggered is a state you finally reach after you've healed all your emotional wounding.
Which I think happens about a minute before death. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know.
You know, we're all learning and growing. And so who can ever say that they really, truly arrived?
Yeah.
But I know for me, it's like I've done so much shadow work and so much delving into why am I reactive to this, that I would say, for the most part, I'm not emotionally triggered. Mm-hmm. For the most part. There's an occasional time when I'm pushed. But yeah, when we look at the world and we see the alcoholism, the drug addiction, the self-harming, the bulimia, anorexia, emotional eating, the credit card debt because of trying to escape emotions. There's so many woes in the world that are directly related to repressing emotions.
Yeah, absolutely. And and I think that the way that my triggers have evolved is really fun to watch, where you know, I remember a specific time when someone cut me off in traffic, and then I chased them down the road.
That was called the asleep reaction.
Yes. Versus another time when somebody, you know, I was making a left-hand turn at a left turn arrow, and this person comes behind me and then goes around. It's a single lane, goes around me, swings in front of me, and then slammed on their brake. And I was like,
wait a minute,
where did that come from? Like, and he's flipping me around, like, I must have done something that really set him off.
No, it's not about you. It's about what they're doing and how they're reacting to the world. Right. And that is one of my strongest lessons, is that when we point the finger and blame someone else, we are giving away our power. Yeah. We're saying they are in charge of fixing this because it's their behavior that's causing it. Yeah. When we say, ooh, I don't like what that person's doing, but I'm responsible for how I react to it. Right. We take our power back, and we now have the ability to shift how we perceive, how the perspective through which we look at that situation.
Yeah, it was I heard somebody say a couple weeks ago that if somebody's holding a cup of coffee and you bump into them and coffee comes out of the cup, it's because coffee was in the cup. If water was in the cup, then water would have come out of the cup.
True.
So if you bump into somebody and anger comes out of them, it's because there's anger inside of them.
Yes, absolutely.
If compassion comes out of them, then it's because compassion was inside of them.
Absolutely. Yeah. We see the world not as it is, but how we are.
So powerful.
Yeah. And that's one of my favorite. It's in the Talmud. I use it to help people see that their parents, their teachers, their ministers, their leaders, all the people that gave them perspectives on how the world works, were looking at the world through their own filters and perspectives.
Yeah.
And it's not necessarily that dad's idea of how the world works is the truth. It's his truth.
Right. Yeah, this is so powerful. And I know that I could talk to you for hours and hours and hours on it.
Yes, I sense that too.
And is there a piece of advice that you want to share with moms listening?
Oh, I think the most powerful thing I teach is how to positively express an emotion and how to allow an emotion. So there are all these very difficult emotions, sadness, grief, anger, that we tend to push away. We don't want to feel that way. But the biochemistry of an emotion is about 2 minutes, 90 to 120 seconds. Now, we have all experienced emotions that go way longer than that. And that's because our mind is embroiled in the circumstances. Those thoughts of, he did that to me. Those thoughts of, I don't want to feel this way. All those thoughts prolong your experience of the emotion. So the tool that I teach is called focused attention on a feeling. You put your entire focus on, where's the feeling in my body? What shape is it? Is it sharp and pointy, or is it a ball of crumpledness? How does it feel to me? And where is it in my body? And then you acknowledge the emotion. So you feel it, you acknowledge it, and then you allow it. And in doing those three things, first, the mind is so preoccupied with the emotion that it can't think of the circumstance.
Yeah.
And then the emotion is allowed to flow and will end. And I have spoken to people who use this after the suicide of a loved one. That tool allowed them to get through just the grief and the anger that comes up when that situation is present. It allowed them to get through the day. And it's so simple. I think it's almost deceptively simple. People like, oh yeah, feel, name, allow. But it really is very powerful when you do it and understand it's not one and done. Because as soon as your mind returns to the circumstances, that emotion will come back up. So you just practice it. Feel,
Yep.
name, allow. Do it again. Do it again. And eventually, the buildup of that emotion, that trigger over that circumstance begins to diminish.
Yeah, it's interesting. Excuse me. When I had this awareness that I wanted to experience I wanted to dissolve my triggers. So or I wanted to identify, what was I trying to do? I wanted to identify the triggers so that I could heal the wound.
Beautiful.
Right.
Self-awareness is the first step. Yeah.
Yes. And so I was writing them down, and one of them that came up was, so I'm sure that there's more to this one specifically, but when I was lost, and I was trying to find the people that I was lost from.
Uh-huh.
And it was like the things that were being solutions that were being presented were not helping them. In fact, one of the solutions took me farther away from them.
That's dramatic.
And when that happened, I parked the car and I just started crying. And I'm like, okay, what am I making this mean right now?
Oh, that's such a beautiful question.
Yeah. And what came up for me was that I felt like they didn't care if I was there, which allowed me to question that thought.
Like, when did I first feel that way?
And I didn't go there, but I could. But
Yeah.
where I did go in that moment was, okay, that's not what's happening. They're actively trying to find me.
That is so beautiful. Yeah.
Like I had 3 people trying to help.
Mm.
And the funniest thing, and this is why I know that the universe supports you in everything that you're doing. This was something that needed to be identified. And I know that because my phone was on do not disturb. So I have one person who's called me 3 times and it's going straight to voicemail.
Oh, no. Oh, yes.
Do not disturb. So it's like, no, this is actively, like, they're actively trying to support me.
Well, it's you creating the circumstances
Yeah.
where you are faced with a situation that the healing,
Sure.
the self-awareness needs to come forth.
And you gave me another really good question to dive into. When did that first show up?
So that's another technique that I use. And the Talmudic statement of we don't see the world as it is, we see it as we are, plays a huge part in this. So I used to get triggered by people yelling at me. And unfortunately, I married a man who was a yeller. So I experienced that a lot. And basically, I didn't have, in that marriage, I didn't have the tools that I know now. But had I had the tools, I could have asked that question. When did I first feel this way? And it would have taken me back to very young childhood where my drunk dad was screaming at me. And when we say we don't see the world as it is, we see it as we are, and apply that to my drunken father, we can rewrite the story. I am not wrong. I am not worthless. I am not everything he said I was, because he was a drunk adult yelling at a 3-year-old. And yeah, it's a powerful way to rewrite that story. Bring your adult self into that first time and tell the child you the truth of what was happening. Because often that kind of childhood trauma is just generational trauma passed on because the adult experienced childhood trauma from their parents, and that's how they learned to deal with stuff.
Yeah. Because if they were doing what you're teaching them to do, they would identify it and take the ownership.
Self-introspection. Imagine if our highest levels of leadership had self-introspection.
Yeah.
Whoa.
What would the world look like?
Exactly. What would the world look like?
Is there a book that's been instrumental in your personal development journey?
I would say The Body Never Lies by Dr. Alice Miller. As a child who grew up with traumatic circumstances, I made the choice at a very young age to not be like my father. And that meant to young me that I couldn't be angry. And so I grew up the queen of emotional repression. And
I held that title.
soul sisters. Yeah, so I definitely I taught my children emotional repression. I modeled emotional repression. I didn't have the awareness that I now have. And all I can do is write my books for kids, giving them these tools, and do my television show for parents, giving them tools so that maybe I can fix some of the problems I brought to the world through my own emotional repression.
Yeah. You are definitely not alone in this club. Emotional repression. Obviously. That's what we've been talking about for 30 minutes.
Alysia, I lived in England for a year or two, and I was doing guided meditations for people in England. And one of them was to just get in touch with your feelings. And I started the meditation. I said, remember a time when you were young, and remember playing with your friends. Remember running through the field or riding your bikes or, whatever you were doing, playing baseball. Remember how much fun you had and remember how you giggled, and just tap into that feeling of happiness that is bubbling up. And one guy, when I got to there, sat up straight up and he said, "How do I feel?" I'm like, "Oh yeah, I'm in England."
I've had people from England. I've talked to many people from England, and I thought we were bad. And
Oh, no, emotional repression is like the culture in England. Keep a stiff upper lip. We're not going to talk about that.
Yeah. I mean, I got very fascinated, I think, with the royal family when there was the TV show The Crown.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been fascinated by history. Thank you, Dad, for most of my life. But I got really, and then I had an appreciation for drama. So the royal family and
there, yeah.
Marriage Made in Heaven, and it's like, well, of course, that's the emotional oppression is their what's the country's mascot?
The energies that are present in the royal family that, we're not going to show how we feel about that. And, the keep the stiff upper lip, keep calm and carry on, all these sayings. And it's like, it's no wonder, and I know I'll probably get in trouble for this, but to me, it is no wonder that most of the people go to the pub every day. Yeah. And that is a form of emotional repression.
Yeah. Yes, 100%. Where, like I said, we could go on for hours. Where can our listeners find you?
My website, angelalegh.com, is probably the best place. It's ANGELALEGH, no I in there, .com. And for parents, there's a parenting page. So it takes you on a journey through different parenting styles. It gives you access to my last television show, which was called Children's Lives Matter. And you can select the episodes to watch based on the topic. So there's the body image, the social media, the phone addiction one was quite fun. And the last one was on gender dysmorphia, just all these different situations that teens in this world face.
Yeah.
You know, it wasn't what I faced as a teen.
Yeah, the world's definitely changed quite a bit as far as what kids are going through.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of it is, maybe all of it stems from this emotional suppression, and children are meant to be seen and not heard. And
Yep.
I know that we're pulling away from that. And I mean, I don't know if you ever watch Instagram reels.
I do.
My favorite ones are the millennials who are trying to, or maybe it's the Gen Xers, whoever it is, who are trying to do gentle parenting, but they can't, because that's not how we were raised. And
oh yeah, and gentle parenting, it can be a truly good way to parent. And if you forget about boundaries, you're gonna raise kids who don't know how to set boundaries. And so I had built a course called The Art of Gentle Parenting, and now I'm just going to go back to these psychological profiles that were built back in the 70s. So there's authoritative parenting is the highest and best parenting with the best outcomes for kids. And, it's like depending on the kid, depending on the situation, you choose the parenting style that is best for that situation. Like when my 3-year-old ran out into the street and a car was coming, I used discipline to grab him, pull him back, smack him on the bottom. It was in the moment. If I had given it thought, I might have done it a different way. But sometimes that disciplinarian style is very appropriate for the situation. But for the most part, the high nurturing and high boundaries of authoritative parenting is truly the one that brings the best outcomes for kids.
Yeah, I think boundaries are something that people think that they have, and they don't understand exactly how to set it. I'm sure we could have a whole conversation about that.
We could, all about boundaries and consequences.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for being here and for what you're doing in the world. And I have a teenage son that might be getting a couple of your books here pretty soon. He won't appreciate it very much when I go.
He'll be like, "Why am I reading this?
What is this? Why are we doing these kids' books?" But because you gotta learn some stuff too. Anyway, thank you again.
I just finished writing the teacher's guide for these books.
Yeah.
And even to me, I wrote them, but sometimes the depth of knowledge that's in there is like the depth of wisdom, I'll say. So understanding the outcomes of different parenting styles and understanding what is behind bullying, really.
Yeah.
And understanding classroom hierarchy and how that and all of that is in the book. It's in fantasy, it's in different ways, but it plays out in the book so that teachers can point to this or that and say, let's talk about hierarchy.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Well, again, thank you for everything that you are doing in the world and for the changes, the ripple effects that your creations are having for parents and generations to come.
Well, thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak with you, to make this new friendship, and to share this hard-earned wisdom.
Absolutely. We will have another episode of Imperfect Momming for you all coming next week. And until we meet again, keep healing. Bye, guys. Thank you for tuning in to Imperfect Momming. It's time for us to step up and realize that our power is not in trying to shape our children. Our power lies in shaping ourselves into the people we want our children to model themselves after. Don't just do it for your kids. Do it for yourself. When you become a more self-aware, compassionate, and confident person, you and everyone around you benefit. For more information about me and my work, visit AlysiaLyons.com. That's AlysiaLyons.com. And until we meet again, keep healing.